outstanding. All right, next game we're talking about is Texas Tech at number 11 Iowa State. Also a 3:30 game on ESPN. Storyline to know is about the Cyclones. Can they keep up this historic start? They've been one of the biggest surprises in college football so far this year. They started the season unranked, and now Iowa State is in the top 15. They're 7-0, Dalton, for the first time since 1938. Dalton, that was a year that occurred during the Great Depression. So since the Great Depression, Iowa State has not had a start this good before. If they beat Texas Tech, they'll be 8-0 for the first time ever. Iowa State has never gone 8-0 in school history, and that would move the program one step closer to playing in the Big 12 title game and also securing a college football playoff spot as well. Even if they don't win the Big 12 title, if they go 12-0, they're in the college football playoff, no matter what happens in the title game. So it's been a really awesome story to watch the Iowa State Cyclones under Matt Campbell this year. And like I said, it's been one of the best starts they've had in program history.
No, they're a good team, and Matt Campbell runs, I think he's got one of the best cultures of any program in the country with the amount of guys that he keeps year over year. Doesn't lose many guys to the transfer portal. I think I saw a stat where he had the highest retention rate of his roster of any team in the country from last year, right? So he builds a culture. He's got his guys playing fundamentally sound ball, and they keep winning every week.
Absolutely. So, Dawn, you have the Iowa State offense. So we should be looking out for when the Cyclones and Rocco Becht have the ball.
All right, so Texas Tech, they find themselves in a lot of shootouts for sure. They have a good offense and all of that. You'll get to that side of it, but they struggle on defense, and they really struggle to cover. They have the 4th lowest coverage grade in the Power 5. And when you're going against this Iowa State team, the headline is Rocco Becht at quarterback and a really good group of receivers headlined by Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll on the outside, right? Higgins on the outside, Knoll a little bit more in the slot. They got some other good players too, Eli Green, Ben Bramer, but I really want to highlight how good Rocco Becht is, and I think the first priority when you're playing against Iowa State is preventing these middle of the field throws that he just excels at. Rocco Becht, okay, when he's throwing over the middle third of the field this season, has a 91.7 passing grade. That's big time. That's big time stuff. 84% adjusted completion rate over the middle of the field, 13.1 yards per attempt. It's lethal. Whether it's an RPO slant, it could be a deep shot play action post to Jalen Knoll, which we've seen, it feels like a million times this year. It could be Ben Bramer running up the seam. Rocco Becht, they don't throw over the middle as often as some other teams in the country, but when they do it, they're just spectacular. It's just explosive play after explosive play. They just make things happen up the seams of a defense. And I think if you're Texas Tech, a team that's already struggling in coverage, and it's hard enough to prioritize these guys, man. Jaden Higgins is a tough cover. He's a big body. Jalen Knoll, I've told you before, makes every clutch play imaginable for this Cyclones team. They've got weapons. They've got a smart quarterback with a quick trigger, and he works the ball down the middle of the field. So I just think Texas Tech, look, they have a lot to worry about in coverage. They have themselves to worry about in coverage because it's been such a hard time preventing teams through the air scoring points. But if you don't stop Rocco Becht throwing absolute lasers down the middle of the field, good luck to you, because that's where a ton of their big plays have come from this year.
Absolutely. And listen, they're just sitting in the middle of the field, and they struggled there. I mean, they're missing guys like Dadrian Taylor-Demerson and Miles Cole and other guys in that secondary they had
last year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Owens, who doesn't believe space is real, right? That was one of the
something like that.
Yeah, it was one of the things at the combine. Yeah. He was the star of the combine. That's for sure. He also was a crazy athlete too, so he was great.
He set was it broad jump record? I think it was.
I think it was. Yeah, he was crazy. Yeah,
I mean, they had some really good guys back there. You mentioned a safety last year, and the entire secondary struggled. It's not even one area. They have just struggled in general to cover. When you think about, I think the 3 teams below them were in the Power 5 are West Virginia and Mississippi State and Purdue, I think it was. I mean, when you're down in that category with those teams in coverage, it's a problem, and they've found themselves in way too many high-scoring games that their defense just can't handle.
No, absolutely. But one guy that didn't lose, Dolan, was from last year was Taj Brooks. And that's kind of the matchup to watch here is, can Iowa State slow down Taj Brooks? He's not just the star of their offense, he is the offense for Texas Tech. He currently has 179 carries this year. Only Amarion Hampton has more carries among FBS backs this year than Taj Brooks. And we all know, with all the injuries North Carolina's had offensively, how Amarion Hampton is quite literally the offense. Taj Brooks is right behind him, honestly, for Texas Tech. He has 921 yards on those carries. He's moved the chains 52 times this year, the 4th most in the country. He is a human bowling ball at 5'10", 230 pounds. And usually, Dalton, when you have that many carries, you start to worry about the health of the running back, right? Taking that many hits. He inflicts the hits on defenders, right? He's inflicting more pain on would-be tacklers than they are on him, right? So he's a bowling ball. Iowa State and their defensive coordinator, John Heacock, really kind of created and patented the 3-3-5 defense, which is very, very good in the secondary and very, very good at stopping passing plays down the field. What is not great at, though, is stopping the run. Because it makes sense. They only have 3 defensive linemen on the field, only 6 front 7 players. They have a front 6, not a front 7 out there. That's a significant issue for the Cyclones in this game. Right now, Iowa State is 108th in run defense grade and 116th in yards per carry allowed at 5.7. And 2.3 of those yards come before contact, which is the 4th most in the Power 4. So that means if you give Taj Brooks a full head of steam downhill against their DBs and linebackers, that could be a long, long day for their defense. So is critical in this game for them to stop the run and stop Taj Brooks, because he is quite literally the entirety of Texas Tech's offense. And also, it's even more critical when Baron Morton, their quarterback, might be out in this game. He suffered an injury to his non-throwing shoulder last week. Will Hammond, a talented true freshman, but still a true freshman, would be in line to start if Baron Morton is out of this game. So if Morton is out, it's even more paramount for the Cyclones to stop Taj Brooks.
Yeah, no, that's the big thing is we question Iowa State in the trenches sometimes, and I thought they did an excellent job when they played West Virginia, and we both picked West Virginia to win that game because we thought that run game would give them issues, and Iowa State survived through that and made enough plays in their passing game to get through it. So, no, it is a challenge. Tackling Taj Brooks is one of the biggest challenges in college football for sure. He's so physical, and he could cause a lot of problems for him inside.
Absolutely. So, Dawn, ultimately, will Iowa State's undefeated season end, or will the Cyclones go 8-0 for the first time ever?
I think they're going 8-0. And I see there is the big advantage for Texas Tech with Taj Brooks, but I think Iowa State has advantages just about everywhere else. I think they have advantage in both passing games when you talk about their offense with Rocco Becht and their receivers against a struggling secondary. I think on defense, where Iowa State's one of the best coverage teams in the nation against a Texas Tech passing game that can be up and down. And then I think, look, honestly, their run game has been good too. When you talk about maybe they're not the best blocking team, but they've gotten it done with 3 different backs now. You've got Abu Sama, you've got Carson Hansen, and you've got Jalen Jackson now. And I think Rocco Becht has been doing more with his feet of late. I think he's become a solid weapon on the ground, especially scrambling. So I think there's a lot of advantages for Iowa State in this game. They're at home. First time ever they could go 8-0. I think they'll do it 38-28 Iowa State.
Yeah, I'm going with Iowa State as well, 34-21. I think Taj Brooks will do everything he can to keep the Red Raiders in this game. But Rocco Becht and their uber-talented pass catchers, they're too much for Texas Tech's secondary to handle in this one. So I got Iowa State winning by 13 and going 8-0 for the first time ever in program history, which is a very, very cool story that we have in college football.